Hi, I'm Heather Roberts.
And I'm Veronica Adams, and we are 1852 Media.
Hello, hello, and welcome back to For Book's Sake. I like to call that my John Oliver song, my John Oliver moment.
Oh my God, it totally is.
Right? Like it makes me feel.
Little last week tonight jam happening.
Yeah,
I
that's the
love it.
goal. Today we are here with Kate Hall, who is an amazing content creator and course owner. She is known probably best for her course of TikTok for authors. And welcome, Kate. I'd love to, if you can tell us a little bit more about yourself as I bumbled through your bio.
I actually can't tell you anything about myself, so sorry about
It's going to be a really short podcast.
that. So yes, I am Kate. I am a six-figure author specifically because of TikTok. But I also, in between learning about TikTok and then like making money from my own books, I kind of accidentally fell into becoming one of the topmost experts on TikTok when it comes to the author space, which was very weird and exciting for me. And now I have helped over 2,000 authors. We're actually close to hitting 2,500 authors, I think, with their author journey and helping them make money from TikTok with their books and doing it without necessarily like going viral or doing memes or singing and dancing or whatever.
Yeah, because I feel like that's one of the things. I mean, Veronica and I talk to clients all day long, and they're like, I don't want to put my face out there. I
Yep.
don't want to do the, trends of
Yep.
the trending sounds. I don't want to
I'm too
dance in
old to
front of the
embarrass
camera.
myself this way. Yeah. There's
Yeah,
always, objections and protests about the types of content that go viral, specifically on TikTok.
right. So I love that your course is not that, it's you can do this without having to, one, put your face out there, and two, without having to follow any of the trends that are, just going. They're so short-lived. What you put out is providing people with evergreen content, which I think is really helpful and cool.
Yeah, and something about that too. Like while my strategy has changed like very minutely since I got started in 2022 and then I started teaching people how to do it in 2023. But since then, my strategy hasn't really changed all that significantly. I'm still posting the same style of content. I'm posting the same type of scenes. I've gotten a lot better at like figuring out the scenes and pulling the scenes and refining them.
Mm.
But overall, like my strategy hasn't changed. So my course content hasn't changed other than like I do my monthly Q&As for my course members. And so anytime there's an update, I'll talk about it in there and I'll be like, "Hey, this is what TikTok's doing right now. This is the direction it looks like it's going." And like we'll talk about that or we'll talk about like yeah, TikTok is being an asshole and updating their algorithm, which means everybody has low views this week. Hooray!
Mhm.
Yeah.
And despite like that being bad news, people are like, "Oh, I'm so relieved because I thought there was something wrong with my content." Um, so it's really cool. I've just like accidentally built up this whole community because I was trying to um like make a little money on the side while I was starting to build up my books again. And so a friend was like, "Well, if you're working on your TikTok, would you be willing to like post on mine? I'll pay you." And I was like, "Yeah, I live in a shed and I make like $100 a month. I will absolutely take some money." And now I'm like a six-figure author and I do all of this other stuff and it's gone pretty wild.
It's crazy. No, I mean, your trajectory has been awesome, and
Yeah.
you work really hard though. It's not like this just fell into your lap. Like yes, it did, but you also grasped the opportunity. I know. Well, so Kate and I met last month, April. Well, I guess technically 2 months ago now, since we're in June. But we met at a conference. We were both speakers at a conference, and we just got to talking. And a lot of what we ended up talking about with some other authors as well is sort of grasping on opportunities and a little bit about like manifesting, right? And getting, yourself in the right headspace to be able to focus on some of this stuff. So, yeah, some of it fell in your lap, but you also were able to, take that and run with it. So,
I
give,
mean, yeah, absolutely. Like, obviously, things would be different if I didn't have a friend who had needed the TikTok account. But honestly, like, I was trying to jump on TikTok like everybody else at the end of 2022. And I had a bunch of author friends already and happened to be discussing that with one of them. And they were like, "Oh, I know you need money. Would you do this in exchange for money?" And like, so while the opportunity did kind of hit me like a freight train because I accidentally took on too many clients after that, because like once they found out I was
sure.
doing it for her, everybody was like, "Oh my God, I need a TikTok person, please." And I took on like way too many clients way too quickly. Never again. I actually don't even take individual clients anymore, which is wild because it used to be I would like have to do all of this super, super hard work and work with clients and be really stressed because despite how I sound, despite how enthusiastic I sound, I'm not the most social of people. And I have really bad anxiety about doing like work for clients. So the fact that I'm not having to do the client work anymore and not having to stress about that, that's very nice. But I almost tanked the entire business in April of 2023 because I was still like just not quite there and I didn't quite have my confidence. But then I released TikTok for Authors in September, and like I had gotten a lot of my confidence back at that point because I took some, instead of like running people's TikTok accounts, I did some work where I was helping authors figure out how to do theirs and how to train like their PAs. And I was like, "Oh, I'm really good at this."
Yeah.
Um, which was
Yeah,
really
you like
cool.
found your niche. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just teaching them to do the exact same thing I was doing because I realized that like even though I had been posting for authors before that, I like it part of the reason it felt like so much pressure was on me is because it felt like I was the only one doing it at the time. There were other companies who were doing it and who were doing it on a massive scale, but their wait list was months long. They would take deposits and they wouldn't even start posting for months. Like it was a whole thing and it was so hard to find someone. Um, and so it kind of was wild how quickly it blew up and how I almost tanked everything because I couldn't handle the workload. Had to refund a lot of people in May of 2023. Had to refund several $1,000s. That was a fun learning experience for my business. Um,
Yeah, well, that's all it is. I mean, that is a learning experience, though. And
yeah,
now you'll never do that again. And you've pivoted into something that's more sustainable to you,
yeah,
and for you, which is
absolutely.
great. But yeah, so I mean, most of our listeners are authors,
Yes.
and I would love for you to share maybe your top two tips of what they should be doing on TikTok.
Okay, so step one, get the sexiest bikini you can find. And I'm not just talking about the ladies here. Anybody can do this. Get the sexiest, preferably something sparkly. Get
Oh
some
yeah.
spotlights. Get some really good music going. No, I'm kidding. Um, so what I always tell people is that you don't have to be on camera to do TikTok. My course does teach about how to be on camera and do TikTok, but honestly, like that's exhausting, and that's why like most of my work now is like through like my YouTube and stuff because I only have to record once a week. It can be really exhausting to try to sit and record constantly and have to like make new content and come up with new ideas. So there are you say two things, but this is going to be more than that, and I'm going to go
Well,
on a spiel.
you
And
tell
if
us
these
what you
people
want
make
to say.
so
We
Yeah.
love the bonus content, but
Yeah.
yeah,
we'll
if
take
you're
as many of the
listening,
tips as
take
you think are
notes because
necessary.
yeah, if you're listening, make sure you're taking notes because I'm about to say a lot of things and you're going to get confused if you're not like tracking it with notes. So the first thing is pulling really good hooks from your book because we're not using blurbs to sell books. TikTok sees like graphics where it's like a picture of your book cover and then like your trope list with the arrows or whatever. They see that kind of stuff as ads. And it's a type of ad for your thing, even if you're not doing paid ads, and you'll end up getting like 20 to 50 views, if that. And that is because TikTok wants people to pay money if they're running ads. So I don't post anything that looks like an ad. And I will pull scenes from my book and split those into slides because I like to do TikTok's photo slideshow content where people can flip through at their own pace. And I do, this is going to sound crazy, 25 to 35 slides. And people are for sure going to comment, like, how am I supposed to find 25 to 35 paragraphs worth of information or pages worth? You're not posting your whole book. You are pulling a scene and you're going to have like 10 words max per slide. The only slide that I have that's over like 15 words, like 15 is going to be a lengthy slide for me, but the only one that I will have that's over 15 words is going to be that first slide. And at that point, I'm going to put a character archetype plus a conflict. A lot of my clients are romance writers because this works super well and is super easy for romance because we know the tropes and we know the archetypes. So if I say when she runs into her hockey player ex with her new boyfriend, or like when she goes to her hockey player ex's game and her boyfriend doesn't know that they used to date. Like, we know that there's a conflict there because she's there with her boyfriend and the hockey player is her ex. And we know because he's her hockey player ex, we know who the love interest is. We've got that archetype, right? We know that she's going to go back with her ex and that her boyfriend is probably going to turn out to be a jerk.
Yeah, 100%.
Because that's the archetype. We understand the tropes. And then we're going to go into the scene and we're immediately going to be in the scene. We're not going to paraphrase it. We're not going to make it read like a blurb. We're immediately going to have a piece of dialogue, something it can be a long piece of dialogue, it can be a conversation, but you want to start with dialogue because this lets people know. Sorry, I have a hiccup coming through.
Oh, you're fine.
So this dialogue lets people know that they're reading a scene from a book and that they're not just reading like a concept or an idea. TikTok has another like common trend that's the what I call the imagine trend, where somebody will put like imagine at the top of the page and then it'll be like you run into your ex at his hockey game. You had no idea he was a famous hockey player. And it's like this long wall of text. And I call it the imagine trend because it has the word imagine at the top. And a lot of authors have tried to use that, but the problem is that there's the expectation with that trend that this is not a book that exists. When we're putting this dialogue and doing these individual slides, because it's an accepted format and because so many people have used it at this point, it is expected that this is a book somebody can already read. And so people are going to go into the caption, the description, and they're going to go into the comments to find the title. Because I know you're going to ask, how do people get to the book then? Because you can't put a link on TikTok. How do they get to the book? Why don't I just put that little Canva graphic at the very end? Because TikTok thinks it's an ad. But if you put the title in the caption, or in the description, I should say, if you put the title in the description and your pen name, then that's how people can find it because people are willing to search for it. People on TikTok are willing to search for it. Anybody who was an author on Facebook 10 years ago is aware that like if you didn't put a clean link that like basically added the book to the cart and downloaded it to their Kindle for them,
You're not wrong. You're
So
not
true.
wrong.
like people were so unwilling to like do even like the tiniest bit of work to read the book. But nowadays people are willing to search for it. They're willing to search. If they have the title and the pen name, they'll find it. Which is wildly different from how it used to be. So I use the slideshow posts unless I'm doing like my TikTok shop content. And the scenes that I'm going to pull for these are going to be emotional scenes. I never pull spicy scenes since the spring of 2020. I have said, do not pull spicy scenes because in the spring of, or not 2020, 2023, there was another number there. So in the spring of 2023, you might recall, was the first time that the United States tried to ban TikTok. And if you were on TikTok at the time, it sucked because the algorithm was all messed up and it was really difficult with BookTok and people were not able to find your content because the algorithm was resetting every day. So like at one point in 2023, I would refresh my page and it would show the same viral video of like a guy doing a backflip off of a cliff. And I was like, this isn't in any way related to anything I've ever watched. But it had like 2 million likes or something on it already, which means that it was a generalized viral video. It wasn't niche. It wasn't for my content. It wasn't for me. It was something a lot of people liked. So they were like, we're just going to throw viral shit at them. We don't care what it is. We just need content for people. And they would do this every day. So every day until I like blocked that account, I would see that content. And then the day after I blocked that account, guess what? I saw that content again, the same video. And the account was still blocked. And it's because they were rebooting and they were basically like handpicking already viral content.
Mhm.
And then if you were posting your book content, then only your older content would show, older content that already had views. So people who were just starting out at this time were like, TikTok is garbage, nothing works. And a big part of it was that TikTok was starting to ban spicy content because the excuse the United States was using to get rid of TikTok was basically saying, well, what about the children? There's children on TikTok and people are posting pornography. And so I started saying in like March of or February of 2023, I was like, hey, stop posting spice. TikTok is going to start banning it. And they did. And people will still post spicy scenes and be confused when 4 posts later their account won't get any views because they're posting a million spicy scenes.
Right.
And some people still get away with it somehow. Some people sneak past it, but eventually they're going to get on TikTok's radar. The bots are going to catch them, and they're going to get that account shadow banned. So I use content that is emotional and relatable. I specify relatable because if your main character is a orphan and her village got destroyed by this evil king, then she is about to go into battle and she's like really worried and emotional because this battle is going to be like what determines her fate and it's going to be her vengeance on her village. People will care when they read the book, but they're not going to relate to it when they see it on TikTok, when they have about 60 seconds to see your content. Okay. And when they have an initial 3 seconds to determine if they even want to read it, that the feelings she's feeling about that are not going to be relatable enough for most people to be willing to give it a chance. And I say most people because obviously there's going to be outliers who are like, ah, yes, orphan who is, about to go into battle.
That is the book I've been looking for forever.
I only
Yeah.
read books where orphans go into battle. Oh my God, I'm so excited for another one. But
that FYP is really FYPing.
Yep. So
But yeah, for most people, that's not going to be, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even in like those high stakes, high fantasy things, I'm going to find stuff that's relatable. I had one client who wrote a sci-fi book. There was technically a romantic aspect in it, but it wasn't a romance. And by a romantic aspect, I mean the man was already married and he had been kind of neglecting his relationship with his wife. And she like packed her bags and left at one point because he was like neglecting their relationship emotionally. But the book wasn't about them. The book is the fact that he accidentally created an AI copy of himself that is self-aware. And his company is like, oh shit, this is a big deal. Nobody can find out about it. We're going to make you stay at the office and it's going to be just you and the robots and guards. And you are stuck on the premises and we are telling everyone that you are planning, because they were like planning a manned mission to Mars to try to colonize Mars, because sci-fi. And so the scene that was like the absolute juiciest scene in the book that I pulled for this client to use is this man is sitting at work. His bosses have told him he's not allowed to leave, and he gets an email that his mother has died 5 miles away from where his work is, because she lives in the same town. I think they were in Seattle. So she died like 5 miles away from him, and they're not letting him go to the funeral.
Ugh.
And
that's the scene.
Yeah, and so we can't necessarily emotionally relate to we are trapped by our evil bosses because we created a self-aware robot, but we can relate to, oh, your dad's funeral is today, so are you going to come in for the second half of your shift then? Like, we can relate to a shitty boss.
Yep.
Like, that's where that emotional juice is. Never let me say emotional juice ever again. That was a disgusting.
that lived experience of having someone completely lack compassion for a totally natural and normal thing that we all, well,
Yeah.
most of us experience at some point.
Yeah. Especially experiencing under capitalism, like
Mm-hmm.
with middle management. You know, this is
Right.
some, asshole middle manager who's just like,
These record profits aren't going to generate themselves. Bury your
Yeah.
mom and get back here after lunch. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They were like, well, no, you can't go to the funeral. Everyone thinks you're in Antarctica for your training, for your Mars
Right.
mission. Why would you be able to go to the funeral?
Yep.
Because my
Yeah, that's
fucking mother died. Turns out, well, I'm not going to spoil the book.
don't spoil the book. No, that's the one of the big things that I took away from your talk at the conference I was at was this point was, don't put up spice, put up vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And put up relatability and vulnerability, and that's what's going to sell. Vulnerability sells, spice doesn't sell. That's not. And
And
that
then
was a huge mind shift for me for TikTok specifically.
Yeah. And when it comes to like, if you decide to do content of your face where you're talking about your books, talk about your books, because if you go viral for something else, people aren't going to buy your books. I've had a lot of people who are like, yeah, I ran an author account, but then I had this funny thing happen with my kids or with my pets, and I posted about that, and that went viral.
Mm-hmm.
But none of my other content is doing well, and they're not looking at my other content, and nobody's liking my other content. But now TikTok is like, well, the content about your dog kids funny thing is going viral. I think dog kids are actually called puppies.
Yes,
we
Yeah.
love a wordsmith.
TikTok is like, well, that's what's going viral. So if you post more of that, you can go viral again, but not your book stuff. But then another big point on like virality and how to go viral, how to guarantee that you're going to go viral 6 times a month. There's no way to guarantee it. And especially in the book space, like I could pretty confidently make a person go viral about something random so that they could monetize their account and like make money from ads. But when it comes to a space where you have something that you're already trying to sell, there's a whole different ballgame when it comes to virality, and it's much more random. But what I want people to understand is that being consistent is going to make you more money in the long run, because sure, a viral video can do really well, but it can also tank. So if you're depending on a viral video to make your income, you're going to fuck yourself over. I had a video that went viral. It got 200,000 views in 2023, 2024, 2023, one of those years. The point is, it went viral, and it was about a book that had newly been released. It was 2023. I remember now. And I was super excited because despite having made other people go viral and do really well, this was my first viral video in a long time, and it got 200,000 views. And does anyone want to guess? Do either of you want to guess how much money that spike in views made me?
I mean, I know the answer, but go ahead,
You know the
Veronica.
answer.
Oh, am I guessing blind?
Yeah.
Okay. 200,000 views.
Yeah.
25 grand.
25 grand. So I was expecting, to give you a more realistic view, with that kind of with those kinds of numbers, I was expecting to make around $1,000 a day for 2 or 3 days.
Holy crap.
So that spike in views made me, and I'm not kidding, this is not an under exaggerated number.
Mm-hmm.
For that book, the spike that I saw was $20.
Oh my god.
My spike was $20.
Those are like micro pennies.
I had done everything correctly, but
Wow.
someone commented, because everybody said, oh my god, what happens next in the comments. And some people said, well, I'll only read it if I know what happens next. If you see that comment and somebody says, I'll only read it if I know what happens next, they're lying to you. They're not going to read it if they know what happens next, because someone replied to every single comment telling them what happened next. And
And
it
so that's why
was
she
such
only
a
made
juicy scene,
$20.
and somebody replied to every comment saying what happened next. And because of that, because nobody had the tension, nobody had
Mm-hmm.
a reason to go
You've
keep reading because they knew it.
resolved the impetus to buy the book. Someone's
Exactly.
just
So
put it in
it
the
resolved that
comments.
tension, and it resolved
Yep.
any reason to buy the book, despite it being an emotionally juicy scene. It made me $20 on that book.
That's so
And
disappointing.
I cried for 2 days.
I would have
No
cried
kidding.
too.
So, what I have realized from that experience and from overall is that going viral should not be the goal. It should be consistently getting decent views. And what
Yeah.
I consider to be decent views is trying to aim for around 1,000 to 2,000 views per video. If this were 2023, like the spring of 2023, I would say
Mhm.
you should be getting videos that are like 15 to 20,000 views at least twice a month or twice a week even, but it's not back then. But if you're getting videos that are 1 to 2,000, you're going to start seeing sales. If you're already making money from like ads, then you might not notice the spike so much, but you will be getting sales from your books through that. Whether that
But
is,
still better visibility than Meta.
yeah,
You know, that anything you can
absolutely.
get on Insta or Facebook without paying for it. So
Well,
Yeah,
and I'll still say the consistency is key because I've had some clients go viral, and they really did, shot their book up into close to the top 100 on Amazon, even though the rank is now we don't even know if that can happen. But
yeah, the
anyway,
rank is
that's
all
a
screwed
different
up.
conversation. But anyway, it shot them up the charts, right? They're making tons of money, and it's great. And then they're trying to do it for their next book in the series, and nothing. They're not able to go viral, and the problem is because they weren't consistently posting between those things.
Yeah,
They went viral, they posted a little bit, and then they were like, oh my God, like this is, and just riding the wave,
yeah.
and then trying to post for the next book. And readers who pick up a book from TikTok, they're not necessarily going to be your, loyal. They're not necessarily signing up to your newsletter. Some might convert, some
yeah,
might stay and be loyal readers, but a lot of them aren't. They're just picking it up and moving on to the next, picking it up and moving it on to the next.
yeah.
So you really have to get their attention again almost every time. So
Yeah.
being consistent is so key there.
Yeah, my percent that goes from reading to my newsletter is ridiculously small. And I have a
Yeah.
wonderful newsletter, and I have a very engaged newsletter, but the percent that goes and like reads the book and then signs up for the newsletter is very small. And I think it's because people also expect like, well, if I finish this book, I'll remember to get the next one, or like Amazon will
Right.
remind me,
Yeah.
or TikTok will remind me, but it won't necessarily.
Yeah.
So,
Which is
or
such
by
a
the time it
bummer.
does, then they've forgotten about it.
Well, and is it possible that it's also like a demographic issue too? Because I think the conventional wisdom, and you can correct me on this if I'm mistaken, but the average TikTok user, even on Book Talk specifically, is a little bit younger than a reader that you're going to find on another social media platform. Or at least that's, I guess, the general conventional wisdom that gets passed around in the industry is that you're getting younger
So
readers who maybe don't want to be marketed to via email
there
or,
is some truth to that. Not as much as there used to be. So,
Mhm.
um, does anyone remember when Facebook started and it was for all the young people?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Like it was all
I joined it in college. I was one of the
Yeah.
college accounts
I
back in
still have an account where
2016.
the college email address is
Yep.
the login email, even though I no longer have access to that.
Of
Yeah.
Yep.
course. You should change that because if you get locked out, you're screwed. um, but don't worry. I have a TikTok that's like one of my main TikTok accounts, and it's like
Mhm.
attached to a Facebook account that's not my legal name. So if I get locked out of there, I'm like screwed
You're
on my
done.
TikTok shop account.
Yep. You're done.
It's fine probably. Um, but anyway, like any social media account after a few years, the demographic is going to start to age up.
Yeah.
Um, demographic for TikTok used to be a lot younger, and there is still a lot of the younger demographic on TikTok, but a lot of it has started to shift older. And there was a big misconception in 2023 where people would be like, well, if it says that this audience is above 59 years old, because there's like age brackets or whatever on your post. And if it's like, people were saying, like, if it says that your main demographic is above 59 years old, it's because TikTok doesn't know the age of the person using it. And it's like, that's not true because TikTok makes you put in your age when you sign up. Of course, some people could be putting in fake ages, but if the majority of your audience is above 59 years old, that's not a bunch of 12-year-olds putting in that they were born,
Right.
60 years ago.
Yeah.
A lot of it is going to be an older demographic, and the older demographic is there. They don't interact quite the same on social media. And a lot of people who are older don't know how to post right either.
Oh, that's true. That's
That-
true.
So,
There's a
yeah,
savvy level that comes with familiarity, and when you're
Yeah.
a late adopter or it's just not native to you in terms of the technology, that makes a lot
absolutely.
of sense.
So there's a thing called the millennial pause.
Ah,
Yeah.
yes.
So
Yes.
I'm on the ass end of millennials. I'm 30. So I'm on the very like ass end of being a millennial, but I still do it because back when we were starting to post and we were starting to make videos on our phone, you would click the button and then you would pause and then it would like you couldn't start talking until you were sure it was recording.
Right.
Because it took a second. So the millennial pause is the hi, I'm Kate, like that pause and then the breath and then starting to talk. So
Yeah.
that's the millennial pause. And then we're used to the YouTube thing of introducing ourselves at the beginning of the video because people used to have any amount of patience. But then Vine, RIP Vine, I miss you.
I know.
So then Vine happened and every video had to be 7 seconds or less.
Yeah.
So that would happen and you had to get to the point. You take a pause and then introduce yourself and you're halfway done with the video. So people started learning how to record and get to the point because on Vine you also couldn't edit. You couldn't like cut to that 7 second, like to the beginning of you talking. And then Musically was created, Vine shut down, and RIP Vine. I will never forgive Twitter for that. And I'm gonna blame Elon Musk, even though he did not own Twitter at that point.
Yeah, but
But you know
fair.
what? I'm gonna blame him for everything. So,
Yeah.
my shower was too hot. Elon Musk's fault.
Elon Musk's fault. Everything. It's raining
yeah.
right now. It's Elon's fault.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, so Musically, people started shifting over to Musically, and then Musically turned into TikTok. All of us millennials who loved Vine were still in denial and took an extra couple of years before we started using TikTok.
Yeah.
So most of us weren't on TikTok until 2018, 2019. And then that's when it started aging up because millennials would be like, this is the platform we're on, guys. This is the cool thing. And our parents were like, okay. But then we would trick our parents into being on TikTok anyway. But right now, Gen X is really popular on Facebook
TikTok.
and Instagram. Gen X and Boomers. So all of our parents are on Facebook and Instagram. And there's a little bit of a generational split there. A lot more of Gen X is going to be on Instagram versus a lot more Boomers on Facebook. And it's just an age thing. It's because that's what was popular when you hit a specific age when your brain was starting to convince itself to function normally. Or in some cases when you knew somebody whose brain was starting to function normally and that app got created. So I also see a lot of people who are like, well, I'm not willing to learn a new thing. Because guess what? The teens, the youths, are barely using TikTok at this point. It is the Facebook for millennials, I guess.
Oh no, we've ruined it. We've ruined it the way Boomers ruined Facebook.
We always do that though.
We have.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh
so
God, every screenshot my mom texts to me is my comment on TikTok videos. Son of a
yeah,
bitch.
yeah. So though you can see how it's happening. The
Yeah.
youths want to get away from their parents. They don't want their parents following them on social media. So they said skibbity and
Oh my god.
right. That's what my kid is
That's what the
3. I
kids
don't
say
actually
these
know what
days.
he say.
Yeah.
So the Gen Alphas and the Gen Zers hopped on over back to Snapchat,
Yeah.
which the millennials stopped using Snapchat because they posted a joke about Chris Brown beating Rihanna, and we were all like, "Hey, fuck you guys," and we all left. The Gen Zers and Gen Alphas don't remember that happening, so they're hopping over because Snapchat now has the Spotlight feature. Spotlight is TikTok for Snapchat. Every social media app wants to compete with TikTok. So they have Spotlight, YouTube has Shorts, Facebook and Instagram, who are both owned by Meta, have Reels. Everybody
Yeah.
has one. I think LinkedIn even has a short feature now. And I'm like,
Do
oh
they
yes,
seriously?
I
Oh
want
my god.
like,
Because
do
there's
I
nothing
just
I
make
want
like
more than
a
virality
flossing?
in a polo and chinos.
I should just like, yeah, I'm just gonna like floss and be like, I have years of experience in management,
Oh
social
man.
media.
Oh
Like
God.
that's
I
just
got
do
What a
it.
time to be alive, ladies. Can I just throw that out there? Like,
Oh, LinkedIn video shorts. I can't.
wow.
I
Yeah.
can't.
But yeah, so basically anytime us elderly people are hopping in,
Yeah.
the
Yep.
kids flee because they don't want their parents following them on social media.
Of course not. Of
Right.
Like
course not.
MySpace died because parents would follow their kids on MySpace. And MySpace couldn't figure out how to deal with that. MySpace still exists, by the way. It's like a music thing now.
Oh, is
Uh,
it?
yeah,
Fun.
I didn't
Yeah,
think
I
it
mean, it's
existed.
I
I
have a
hope Tom's still getting
19-year-old
paid.
I think
and
after
he's not.
Tom sold it was when it really died.
Oh
For
yeah.
the youths, Tom used to be your friend on the internet.
That's right.
Yes, Tom was.
Some of us kept him in the top 8 just for fun.
Oh
Yeah,
my
just
god.
keep him there. What a
Yeah.
time.
Um,
Um, no, I
top
have a
8 was when you would
19-year-old
rank your
and
friends.
he is not super on social media, but he uses Snapchat religiously. That is what he uses. And he uses Instagram. He lurks on TikTok. But I don't really know what he does on Instagram because he blocked me. Um, I know.
Yeah, because
Because to
he's
your
using
point,
his Insta.
he doesn't want his mother to see his story. He hasn't blocked me totally, but he's blocked me from being able to see his stories or whatever, his reels,
Interesting.
Does
on Instagram.
is his Instagram, is it a Finsta account? Like is it a locked down one?
It's not totally locked down,
Okay, I
but
wasn't sure if it was one that like because what the kids these days, I hate that I'm saying that not super ironically. I tried to make it sound ironic, but it's really not that ironic anymore.
Yeah.
I'm old.
No.
So what the kids these days are doing if they're using Instagram is they're setting their account to private so that they're only like they choose who follows them. So it is so only like their friends can see it. Um,
he might. I honestly haven't looked recently because I he was like, "Oh, mom, did you see my story?" And I was like, I went to go look. I was like, "No, I can't see that." And he's
he's
like,
like,
"Oh,
thank goodness.
well, and he's like, "Oh, I forgot. I blocked." He actually wanted me to see that one. He's like, "Oh, I forgot I
Okay.
blocked you." And I was like, "Why did you block me? What the hell?"
Because
So,
boundaries are important, Mom.
yeah,
Boundaries are important.
it's
Yeah,
fine.
so
I mean, I don't care, but I
yeah,
care a little
so
bit.
when we were younger, we were using like LiveJournal
Oh,
and uh,
Zanga.
oh God.
MySpace for vague posting,
Yep.
and similar things. Um, when our parents were younger, they were using physical journals instead of telling everybody else their private thoughts and feelings. I think that's the downfall of this country is that everybody's posting everything they think online.
Hmm.
Some
Yeah.
of those thoughts are inside thoughts. Um,
They are. They should be. They
Yes.
should be.
absolutely. People will post some out of pocket stuff on social media. But it's because people like we have this need to write stuff down and to document, but it used to be that documenting these things was for our own selves to look at, and now it's for everyone to see because we want to validate how we feel
Yep.
about things. Um,
Oh, one more thing to get us slightly back to talking about TikTok.
oh yeah,
Um,
we should.
yeah. So one other thing that you taught me that and I sort of knew this already, but you phrased it in a way that like really made sense to me was talking how you talked about hashtags on TikTok. And you were like, hashtags on TikTok, I mean, you can elaborate after I'm done when I get it wrong. But they are not for searchability. So like on Facebook, you would use a hashtag so that you could click on it and then you could search that particular hashtag and find other posts
Yeah.
that have that hashtag. That's not what the hashtags are for on TikTok. And hashtags on TikTok should be used for categorization so that the TikTok algorithm understands what your video is about.
Right.
Did I
So
say that
a
right?
lot of yeah, pretty much a lot of the category like a lot of the elderly opinion on hashtags, and by elderly I mean anyone over the age of 25. Um so all of us fit that category, don't worry.
All of us.
Um all of the elderly folks experience with hashtags is because Twitter invented the hashtag. That symbol did not exist before Twitter. I'm just kidding. It's a numerical symbol for anyone who thinks I'm serious.
The pound
Um,
sign, if you will.
yes. Um, so, as we all know, Twitter invented the hashtag, but they used it so that people could talk about things because Twitter's big thing was we want people to talk about things, and then we're going to say here's the most popular things people are talking about, and it's going to be those hashtags, like hashtag Beyonce or whatever. Like that's going to be the most popular thing, and it's so we can figure out who's talking about what. Um, because using the hashtag with coding makes it a lot easier to do the drop downs and make it searchable when they're doing coding and when they're using that hashtag um, to help people search. It makes it a lot easier and it makes it so there's a lot fewer mistakes if somebody uses a hashtag like with multiple words. So like if you used hashtag wing night, then it's going to be a lot easier to find other people using hashtag wing night to talk about the wings they're eating tonight. Um, Whatever day Buffalo Wild Wings does their 2-for-1 deal. Um, so it's going to be a lot easier to find that than typing wing space night and having a bunch of posts that happen to have those words like I found a bird with a broken wing last night. um, Nobody wants to hear about that. We want to know what the deals are on the wings. um, so so that's where hashtags started. And I know a lot about like the history of all these social medias.
No,
That's why I'm
it's
so
super
good at my job,
interesting.
is because I've learned about like the history of the things and then like how that applies to our psychology and how that applies to like modern social media and how we apply that. It's really fun for me. I'm autistic. Um
Yeah,
so, and I'm
we
not
love it.
saying that as a joke. I'm saying that as a serious, but it is funny
Yeah.
to say, especially because it surprises people. But basically, so these hashtags were originally used for searchability because people would click it and find people with related things, right? And so then that transferred over when Instagram started using hashtags. They didn't, I believe they, I want to say that they didn't use hashtags at first, but then they started introducing hashtags in like 2011 or 2012 when because Instagram started in like 2010. And then Facebook started using hashtags and trying out hashtags. If anybody remembers, like it was a total shit show when Facebook started using them. People were so mad. They were like, this isn't Twitter. And it's
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah, like people were genuinely mad about this. People would talk and rage about this for days. And
One
then
of
people would
many
post like,
Facebook updates and changes that just enraged people.
yeah, and they
Yeah.
would post like Facebook statuses, like vague posts, because they'd be like, can't believe so many people are falling into the hashtag trend on here nowadays. Like they would post these vague posts about it because they're annoyed that their neighbor that they're Facebook friends with, like, uses too many hashtags. So, like, that's what they were for, though, was to find things that were like trending. And um the thing is, people don't really follow hashtags anymore. And TikTok noticed. TikTok was pretty much the first to notice, like, people aren't really following hashtags. So instead of using hashtags for searchability, why don't we use, like, they use hashtag for categorization and to group posts together, and for lookalike audience purposes for anybody in ads. I've heard you guys do ads occasionally. For
We do
anybody
indeed.
for anybody who knows anything about lookalike audiences, it helps TikTok's algorithm to find lookalike audiences when people are using similar hashtags. So I use very niche hashtags on my posts because I want to know that the people who are watching my posts are the people who are into other billionaire marriage of convenience romances. So I'm going to use the hashtag billionaire marriage of convenience romance. Or just billionaire romance or marriage of convenience romance, or billionaire boss. Like, I want to know that people who are seeing my posts are into the same type of content, which means that I want TikTok to know what my content is about very specifically and in a very niche way. And I'm not just going to use those in the hashtags, I'm also going to use them as keywords in my description. And what that means, for anybody listening who's not like familiar with SEO is search engine optimization, and it's just saying, like, you're saying the same thing a couple of times so that your thing gets put above other things because it talks about the thing more, is the basic thing. So if I say, like, an impressive proposal is a billionaire marriage convenience romance book, in my description, like at the very bottom of my description, after like my tagline and my blurb and stuff, because I do put my blurb in my description just so that the description is longer, because TikTok likes a long description. So then at the end, I'll put that, and then I'll use like hashtag billionaire romance, hashtag billionaire marriage of convenience, hashtag marriage of convenience, so that TikTok is like, okay, so this person's really into the fact that this post is about this, so we'll go ahead and share this. And because of the format of the post and because of the format of how I word things, and even the punctuation I use on my slides, even though I make it in Canva, TikTok can still read what is on your post. So that's when people are like, yeah, I wrote a spicy scene that didn't do well, even though I censored all of the words. It's like, yeah, TikTok can still read that. Their bots can still read it. They've figured it out. I promise you.
Right.
So because
They know all the words that we've replaced with other words, and they know.
And like,
They know.
yeah, and so if I talk in my course and stuff about censoring words, it's not so that I trick TikTok into thinking the words aren't there. It's so that TikTok is satisfied into being like, okay, you're not saying the explicit word. Meanwhile, the explicit word is like hand, because TikTok knows what we do with our hands and it's disgusting. Um, so
No, it's true. It's true.
But yeah, so like the hashtags I only use for like categorization, and it's to help TikTok categorize my content for like their lookalike audiences and for their algorithm. The TikTok algorithm is simple. Your first 3 seconds are the most important. That's why I use that when archetype plus conflict. And then your view time, not view percentage, your view time is important. And then whether someone completes the video is important. So those 3 things are going to be your most important things on TikTok. And to do that, you have to do all the other things. And you have to have an understanding of all of the other things. And then to get people to get TikTok to categorize it right, you have to understand that description and those hashtags. And it sounds really, really complex, but I promise, like, once you have an understanding of it and once you get the process down, you're working a couple of hours a week. Unless you're actually writing books instead of like procrastinating writing books by playing another round of Baldur's Gate 3 because you want to seduce the bear. Hypothetically,
who would be doing such a thing, Kate?
What? Sorry?
I said, who would be doing such a thing?
Nobody, especially not in a co-op game with their husband. That would be weird.
Yeah, definitely not.
But like my goal, like for everyone, for even if they listen to this, like, and this only, and this is the only time they ever hear me speak, I want them to be able to do TikTok easily, to not put a ton of effort into every post. So like I make all of my posts in Canva and then upload them on TikTok because it's so much easier to like repeat the content. I don't post a new piece of content every day. I don't have, I have a book that's 300, 400 pages. Okay, I don't have 365 days worth of scenes from that book. I have 10 scenes that I used to have 18 for it, but I refined it down after using my like analytics spreadsheet that I have. I used that to refine it down to the top 10 performing hooks. And I post those on a loop. And I post them on several accounts, but I use a post scheduler now. I don't recommend starting with a post scheduler because you're going to get really discouraged because you're going to be like, okay, so I checked my accounts and I have like 0 views here, 100 views here, 50 views here. Ooh, 500 views over here. But like it's very discouraging, but if you do it right, like you're going to consistently get decent views overall versus having to worry about like one specific account doing really badly. Because if like one account gets shadow banned, but you're running 12 on a post scheduler, who cares? Throw it out, start a new one. If you're running one account and depending on that for all of your income and that gets shadow banned, you're fucked.
Yeah.
But I do recommend starting with one account so that you can understand how to make your posts and how the algorithm works and like understand which one of your posts are performing well before you ever go into post scheduling, because if you don't make good content, you're just wasting money on a post scheduler, because mine is like $80 a month or something, which is
Right.
a lot of money for a lot of people for a
Yes.
subscription product. But I make so much more than that because I understand which ones of my posts are going to do well. I understand that posting twice a day is going to make me a lot of money. And I understand that I am not physically capable of posting a new piece of content twice a day for a month, let alone for 12 months. But I can sit my ass down once a month and make a month's worth of posts, and like hyperfixate on it for one day, like for an 8-hour work day, and get all of my marketing done for the month so that I can go and, have sex with Halson in a video game.
Incredible. Work smarter, not harder. Yeah.
Exactly.
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 Halson can work harder.
There
Well,
you
of
go.
course.
There you go.
Of course.
So if people want to find you, how can they find you?
They can't. I actually live in a hole in the woods. This
She's
is
occupied with
actually
that bear,
my hole.
Heather.
I know. I
Yeah.
know.
Yep. I just dug a hole and then I burrowed into it. Um, in the winter, it gets closed off and I go to sleep for 6 months.
Yeah.
Now I have, um, first of all, I would start with my YouTube channel. It's Kate Align. We'll make sure that you guys have a link.
Yeah.
But if you want to go ahead and like get my course and like really get started and go into it, if you have never made a social media post in your life and don't know how to download an app on your phone, TikTok for Authors is for you. If you have not figured out what book you should write yet, that bundle has a course for you. If you know a lot about social media and you're really good at it, but you just can't get TikTok to work for you, this course is for you. It goes from absolute basics to super advanced strategies because I don't know what you don't know. Like,
Right.
that's something I've said a lot for several years, and I think that a lot of people forget that, like, they say, like, "Oh, well, this is just common knowledge," and they'll say that about something on social media, like, "Oh, it's common knowledge that you can't post spicy scenes." Well, no, it's
Yeah.
not, because people know what was happening on TikTok 5 years ago, and they decided to start today, and they're following, like, 3 people. They don't know what's common knowledge. So, I'm not gonna ever in any of my content that I make, I'm never gonna assume that you know any sort of information. I'm going to pretend you are a blank slate and you have not been on social media for the past 20 years. Um, because I think that this should be accessible for everyone because my goal is for everyone to get super rich, especially women. Like I do
We love
appreciate the men who do really well with my courses and stuff, and that's really awesome. But my main goal is always, always, always to uplift women in any space, especially in like financial independence, because I have grown up knowing like so many women who, and especially as I get into the author community, I've met so many women who wrote a book for fun, or they saw other people writing books and they're like, you know what, I want to publish this book. And my husband doesn't support it. And my husband
Yeah.
got mad when I started making money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and he
I
doesn't
have
let
to
me work.
hide my books from him or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
So
see that
many.
a lot. So my goal is always to uplift women and to help women. Um, so like seriously, even if you're like, there's no way I can put money down for a course, like follow the YouTube channel. I talk about shit all the time there too. I have a TikTok, but that's just like reposted content from my YouTube. So the YouTube is going to be like the main place to follow me. Because that's where I post like the bulk of my content, and then obviously like the courses. But I want people to be able to make money because I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be broke as shit. I know what it's like to lose your house because you can't afford your rent anymore. I know what it's like to have your car repossessed. Okay, I'm not saying all of this as someone like, oh, look, I have a Chanel bag and I have my Kelly up here and like I've never had to work a day in my life. I just do this for fun. I do this as someone who like has struggled, who has
Yeah.
lived in a shed with no plumbing, with a child at the time. Like I don't want people to have to struggle the way I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
That's awesome.
so I know I'm
We
like
love a girl's girl, and we love a rags to riches story too. I mean, like, and you like it's a hustle. You put in the work. It's not like this just accidentally happened to you. You
Yeah,
refined it through your,
absolutely.
with your own books, your own author brand, and like
Yeah,
it's
absolutely. And you know
tested.
what? We talked at the very beginning of this episode about like, this didn't fall into my lap and I work hard. And I worked my ass off to get where I'm at now and to get things where I'm at now. And guess what? I work 4 hours a week now because of the steps I've put in place to be consistent and to get this where I need to be. And so if you are consistent and you do it right and like you show up and do it the right way, and like a big problem I've seen, I know that we're like trying to wrap up and I'm very sorry about this.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
But a big problem I've seen with a lot of people, and I used to do this myself, is they will self sabotage. They'll be like, well, I listened to this advice from this person who's helped 2,000 people do super well with TikTok and go full time as an author because of TikTok and because of social media. And I did everything she said and it didn't work for me, and this doesn't work for me. And I think that a lot of us do this as well, where we will decide ahead of time, even if we spend money on a product, even if we spend money on a course, we will decide ahead of time, I'm going to do this, but it's not going to work for me. But I'm doing it to prove that it's not going to work for me. But then we don't quite do everything. We
Right.
say it's not working for me, but then our posts have people in the background, especially people wearing like lingerie. Okay, which I say explicitly in the course. I say do not have people in your backgrounds because TikTok flags this as like potential screenshots from porn, because that's something that spam accounts will do. They will put literal screenshots from porn on photo
Yeah.
slides. So I don't use people in my background at all. Like even if it's a hot guy in a suit, we know what's underneath that suit, and it's disgusting. Okay, keep it in another room, sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't use people in the backgrounds, or they'll say, "Well, I did everything she said," and then their posts are 10 slides long, and so people they're not on the content for as long, and they're not interacting as much because they're not putting in quite as much effort for the thing. And it might seem like, well, if I do 25 or 35 slides, nobody's going to be that long. But the thing is, when you have slideshows that long, the people who are there and who are being delivered your content because you've made that content, the people that TikTok knows to give that content to is going to be people who do watch that content because people interact with that and people are more likely to then go and buy and read your book.
Yeah.
The highest return on investment, on time investment and financial investment I've seen is these slideshow posts. And like, there's going to be some differences if you do like TikTok shop, because I don't know if they've let you link. I don't do enough on my TikTok shop. I should clarify that. I know how to do it, and I've worked with clients on it to help them. Like, I have one client who makes $1,000 a day on her TikTok shop from her books. But I don't know if I don't do enough of it, and I don't have enough people that I've worked with on it to have like a massive amount of data versus like the normal posting, because you also have to like mail stuff out, and my goal is like be as low effort as possible.
Right.
Because again, like you said, like I'm a girl's girl. I want to do this for the girls, and like some of the girls have husbands who won't let them accept a delivery of books or who don't give
Right.
them access to a car. And it's like a really shitty situation to be in. But if you are in this kind of situation, you can't drive to the post office to drop off books every day.
Right.
Or your husband will throw a fit if you have the mail truck pick up a bunch of books from you, or you only have a couple of hours a week because your husband's an asshole, or because you don't have a husband and you have, 4 kids that you're trying to take care of and keep alive. Like, whatever time you can squeeze out is what you're going to do to work on it and to improve. So yeah, that's my goal, is to let everybody be lazy and rich.
I love it.
Love it.
No, that's my goal too. So I think that's probably why we aligned so well. We were like kismet spirits. Like this is the thing.
Absolutely.
Because yeah, we're in this business for profit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always been something that Veronica and I have talked about with our clients, because people will come to us with different goals and we're like, well, that's great, but it's not going to make you money. Do you
Yeah.
still want to do it?
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we want you to make money.
Yeah.
It's nice. Like, I once got a client in Cosmo, and like that was cool. Did she make any money off that? No. She saw not one spike in sale. So was it worth it? Eh, eh.
I
I
mean, she can
mean,
say she's been in Cosmo now.
yeah, she can
This
say
is
she's been in
true.
Cosmo, but she got no actual, thing from it. It was a goal from her to be a personal goal to be in like a magazine. So we made that happen and it was really cool. But at the end of the day, I care more about things that are going to make you money
Yep.
than about
Yeah.
just doing things that are cool. And so if, certainly we can try to work together to achieve goals that you may have, but like you, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
we care about the money.
Yep. And
That's important.
you know what? I've had a bunch of people approach me and approach my content that is like, here's how I make this much money from my books, and like come at it from a business standpoint. And like, that's basically the title of the video. And then they'll be
Yeah.
like, but what if I don't care about making money from my books? I just want to publish it and say that I published it because I wrote this piece of art that is, this thing. And I'm like, well,
Then
then
just
my
publish it.
content's not for you.
Right.
Do it. Do that. If you don't care about making money and then you're coming onto my content about how I make money and treat my stuff like a business, and you're mad about how you have to do it to treat it like a business, then like
Like,
my
you don't
content's not for you.
you
Not
don't have
everybody's
to do
content has
that.
to be for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Because like you were
Artistic
saying,
integrity is your priority. Great.
Yeah.
Do it in the way that feels like you are keeping the integrity of your art the priority. But
yeah,
maybe this
yeah,
course isn't
exactly.
the way you should handle it.
Yeah, exactly. And like, but there's so many people, and there's so many people I've met who make a crap ton of money from their books and who did well before they ever took TikTok for Authors or anything. Who like we're coming at this, a lot of us are coming at this, and a lot of the people I work with are coming at this from, I need to make money now.
Right.
And like, not
Yeah.
necessarily like just like right now I need to make $1,000 by Friday or the mafia's after me.
Right.
But like,
Right.
I need to fix my shit. I need to fix my life, and I need the money coming in, and I have these books, and I want to be an author, and I've wanted to, and I'm finally going to do it, and I need to make money from it. And that's where a lot of my people are coming from, and I think, and that's very much where I came from. And a lot of people try to shame people, especially women, for that. Like, so many
Yeah.
people will shame women for saying, I want to make money from my books, especially men who are in high paying jobs but wrote like their passion book. I've seen so many of these men. Again, no offense to men who are not like this, all of the offense to men who are like this, but they'll be like, I wrote my passion project and published it and got 3 sales, but I don't care because I secretly make 6 figures at this job and don't actually need the money, but I feel good about myself because I published a book and paid $5,000 to a vanity press for them to publish my book with a cover that's
Awful.
not a good cover.
Yeah.
But I published it, and I'm mad at you for trying to tell people how to make money. And I'm like, well, then my content's not for you. Like, yeah, because there's a lot of people who are coming at this of like, the economy's shit right now. And it's not just like the Dow is down or whatever. I don't know anything about investing. Like, it's not coming at it from that standpoint. It is, groceries are 4 times as much as they were a year ago, and people cannot feed their families. and people
Yep.
need to figure
Yeah.
something else out because because the system is crashing. The system is broken.
Right. We are at end stage capitalism, baby.
Yes,
So if
like
you can make
people
it
who are
work for
making
you, yeah.
people who are in, like a single income household where the earner is making 100 grand, like can't put food on the table.
It's
Um,
wild. It's
yeah,
wild.
and then of course there's going to be people who are like, well, I've never made more than 20 grand. How in the world are you suffering? And it's like, the problem isn't the people who are making 100 grand who are still struggling. The problem is that the system is broken, and that the people who are making 100 billion a year are increasing the prices for those of us making less than 200, 400 grand or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, there should not be
Record profits, no
record-breaking
raises.
profits.
Record
Yeah.
profits, no bonuses.
Every
Record
year.
profits,
Every
record
year.
record profits.
record inflation.
Record profits. All of our employees are on food stamps.
Yeah. I
Um,
like this. That's part of one of my big missions is talking about entrepreneurship with some other things that we do. And yeah, be your own boss, create your own money, take control of your life in that regard. And if you can do it for a few hours a week, grab some of these courses and, figure it out, because it's a cheat code to help you get ahead. Instead of, because a lot of this stuff, listen, you could do the research yourself. I mean, I'm building out courses myself. Kate has been a lovely mentor for me. And, a lot of this information, you could go and do the research yourself. You could go and learn it yourself. You could spend the
and
time.
you can do a lot of trial and error yourself.
Yeah, you can do a lot of trial and error yourself. But with all courses like this, and we obviously only like to talk about the reputable ones because there are ones out there that you don't want to take. But these are cheat codes. These are people who have already done the work, who are compiling it together in a curated lesson so that you can get it in a way that is palatable for you and you can work through it on your time, and you're only getting the points that you need. You don't have to go through all the slush that everybody else has gone through. So that's one of the big benefits about courses. And for somebody who is in a situation where they need to make money more, quickly, they need to take their business to the next level quickly. You don't have time to do all of that. So this is really perfect. But we should probably wrap up. We've been talking for over an hour. But we can talk with Kate all day.
I have
for real, though.
disease. I never stop laughing.
We love Kate. We could talk to her all day. What you don't know is we literally talked for half an hour before we even started recording.
That's right.
Because
the podcast before the podcast.
Yeah. Because we just can't help ourselves. But so I will put Kate's information in the description of the YouTube link, and also wherever you are listening on this podcast, check out the description. It will be there. And we thank you so much, Kate, for coming on. We've had a really good time.
You.
So
thank you for having me.
Next time. This has been For Book's Sake.